1 minute more, and we're coming in.
That's all I need. You gonna take on all the moosies by yourself there, sir? Hell, I'm gonna walk in there. We used to be old friends.
Nick Nolte plays a Texas Ranger battling a drug dealer and federal drug agents in Extreme Prejudice, one of 4 new films we'll be reviewing this week. I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune.
And I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times. Extreme Prejudice stars Nick Nolte as a Texas Ranger whose assignment is to fight against the drug traffic along the Mexican border. And he has another assignment in this movie, too. That's to look strong and silent and chiseled and violent. And he does a good job of making his character larger than life, sort of as if Dirty Harry had been played by Gary Cooper. Early in the movie, he and the local sheriff, a wonderful performance by Rip Torn, bust some local drug runners. That brings him into a face-to-face confrontation with the major drug dealer in the area, played by Powers Booth. Their relationship is complicated because as children, they were best friends.
Now, personally, I'd just be tickled pink if we could work out something to save us both a world of grief. We ought to work together. You could be a $100,000-a-year man right now, and I'm the man that pays.
You can buy me cash, hell, you always could. But you can't buy the badge, one without the other ain't no damn good.
Well, what in the hell else we gonna do, partner? Shoot each other?
There's another complication between the two men, and that's the woman they both love. She's played by Maria Conchita Alonso as a hot-blooded rebel who tells Nolte to shape up or she'll go back to that drug dealer.
You think you're so big and so good, don't you? Well, let me tell you something. You know nothing. Gosh, he used to be so good to me.
Maybe you should have stayed with him.
Jack, I need to know. I want to know where you and me are going and how long it's going to take us to get there.
And another complication, a secret gang of U.S. Army veterans are operating in the area in their own war against drugs. The exact role of that private army was never quite clear in my mind in this movie, but they help the picture by providing a third force, a deadly gang that stands between Nolte and Booth and confuses them both, as well as the audience. Extreme Prejudice was directed by Walter Hill, who specializes in violent buddy movies like 48 Hours, The Warriors, and Southern Comfort. This movie is in the Walter Hill tradition, which means that the story is not half as important as the style and the choreography of violence. But there are 3 strong performances in the movie from Nolte, Booth, and Alonso in the leads, and I already mentioned Rip Torn, and I had a good time.
I had a very good time with the picture. I think your criticism is right on target. You remember when they were trying a couple years ago to revive the Western with pictures like Silverado? This, to me, is as close to a classic old Western as any picture I've seen in recent years. This is what Westerns were all about. These are larger-than-life characters. The Rip Torn character as a sheriff is fabulous. I wish he had lived a lot longer in the film. I'm sorry to give that away. Nolte's sensational. Powers Booth. This is what men are fighting about.
You're right. All you have to do in this movie is take away the pickup trucks and the neon beer sign.
And frankly, that whole gang.
And take, or make it into some kind of a wild bunch, you know, and you'd have a Western. Just take away the drugs and make that into, well, we're rewriting the picture, but
pork and beans.
Okay, fine. It's a modern Western.
A good one.
And on that basis, it plays well. And weren't you surprised by how good Nick Nolte looked? He's lost a lot of weight.
I was surprised at how good. I was not surprised. I thought he was. I always liked him as an actor, and I love Rip Torn as an actor.
But he has a real presence this time.
He's terrific. We like the film a lot. It's a great Western. It's a great modern Western. Next film. And here is a picture that is making its way slowly across the country, but that's okay because it's been playing in some towns for months, as well as should. It's Maximilian Schell's unusual biography, Marlene, referring to the great star Marlene Dietrich. The documentary is unusual in that Dietrich stipulated that she would not allow Maximilian Schell to photograph her as she looks today. So we just hear her smoky, strong voice, and it makes the film command, oddly enough, our imagination that much more intensely. Schell mixes vintage prints of Dietrich's films and her concert appearances. Here she is on stage, and then again, Industry Rides Again.
Tell them my sight. Tell them I cried. And tell them I died of the same. And when I die, don't buy a casket of silver with the candles all aflame. Just see what the boys in the back room will have, and tell them I sighed, and tell them I cried. the same.
Shell does manage to get her to name her favorite film. Tough question. The Devil is a Woman she picks, and he wants to know why.
Good. You are giving me questions that cannot be answered in 2 minutes.
But you put it down on your list. You said on the list, the best film MD ever made. So why you think it's the best film? You said you would...
You should have a stopwatch.
You would...
And you should say, I will have 4 minutes out of this and 5 minutes out of that.
Well, I
and
have
2 minutes
for this
out of
answer,
this.
I have
What?
32 seconds. So I give you 32 seconds to tell me why you think this is the best film. 1, 2, 3.
Because it's the best film.
Tough lady, and he really has to work to get this interview, but he does get a very good interview on film, even without her face today. Marlene Dietrich, to most people, if they know her at all, is simply the leggy star of the Blue Angel singing Falling in Love Again. Well, here she reveals herself as an energetic actress as well as a powerful human being. See this film, and you'll want to start renting some of her movies, especially that cowgirl picture with Jimmy Stewart, Destry Rides Again.
And that's exactly what happened to me. I saw this film, and I went out and I rented The Blue Angel,
Yeah.
and I rented Morocco,
Right.
and I rented Destry Rides Again.
Yeah.
I Can't Find the Devil is a Woman.
Yeah.
I was fascinated in all of those films, which I had seen The Blue Angel a long time ago. I was reminded by this documentary what a remarkable screen performer she was. She was not really a traditional actress. She was more of a natural force, a phenomenon, and she still is.
Yeah.
And you're right that Shell is like pulling teeth to get her to answer some of those questions, so that the subtext of the movie is really the battle of wills between the two of them.
Yeah, and the technique he does, he throws in a technique of construction of the set and how he was working, because he's trying to recreate that, and that works effectively too. So it's a very nice job of filmmaking as well as dealing with a great subject and pulling out the interview.
You get two films for the price of one. A documentary about Marlene Dietrich and a Maximilian Schell about the film about the problems that he had. When we come back, we're going to review Personal Services, the story of the most famous madam in modern British history.
Don't pay the girl.
Our next movie is named Personal Services, and it's inspired by the life and adventures of Cynthia Payne, a woman who's unknown in this country but has become a folk hero in England, where she's been arrested twice for running a red light house that catered mostly to old men who enjoyed hot tea more than hot times. Julie Walters stars in the movie as a hard-working waitress who invests in real estate and discovers there is more than one way to pay the mortgage.
The rent, Miss Painter. It must be paid. One way or another.
How?
Before long, she's in the brothel business, specializing in middle-aged and older men who are lonely for conversation and excitement.
Now, brothel days are Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. But this is just a party, a sex party, so enjoy yourself.
Who have we got here this evening?
Helen's here, and Barbara.
She's nice.
Oh, and there's pay. No charge. She only does it in her spare time. She's really a vet.
Even the madam is amazed by how easily she can order her clients around.
Madam, they want to know how much.
What for?
Digging the garden.
The slaves. I thought it was free.
Madam, they want to know how much you want for letting them dig the garden.
They've got to work much harder, or I won't accept a penny.
Sorry, Mistress Christine.
It's hard to get good help these days. Just like in real life, the madam's clients testified in her defense. And here, a retired war hero conducts the press on a tour of the sinful premises.
Here, catering strictly for the tastes of the older gentlemen. Here is the lounge where clients relax with a bridge roll and a gin and tonic before going with the lady of their choice, thus undermining the moral fabric of the nation.
You get a taste there of how profoundly middle class the whole operation was, with sex treated like any other commodity. I thought Personal Services was an absolutely fascinating movie for two reasons. First, because of the way it goes into the details of running a successful bordello, and secondly, because of the performance of Julie Walters as the madam. She's tough in this movie. You may remember her as a British actress nominated for an Oscar for Educating Rita, and what she does with this role is interesting. She doesn't go for cheap laughs or easy sentiment. She's not the hooker with a heart of gold. She shows a tough, working-class English woman who finds a market and supplies that this movie is really about commerce more than about sex.
Well, I also want to commend Julie Walters for doing something quite unusual, which is the fact that when you have an actress who's very popular in a nice role, the last thing you expect to see her do for her mainstream audience is suddenly play a madam, and not comically, as you point out. So this film, really, in her behavior and speech, she challenges her audience and enjoyed educating readers. That will be challenging. Second, we reviewed a film called Working Women a few weeks ago. About Working Girls, about New York Madame Bordello. And we gave it positive review. You know, I sort of feel a little bit embarrassed because this is so much of a better film than that it makes Working Girls not seem as good as I thought it was.
Well, this is a very interesting film and a very British film in terms of the whole clientele she has. In England, where this woman is so famous, she's known as the luncheon voucher madam because you know, over there you get a job and they give you a luncheon voucher. You're supposed to spend it at the local tea shop. They spend it for tea and crumpets.
Yeah, they had a good time, it looks like.
Yes, they did.
And you will have a good time, I think, too, seeing the film. Coming up next, the wonderful actress Maureen Stapleton stars in Sweet Lorraine, a comic drama about a woman who owns a dying resort hotel. Can her granddaughter save it?
I'd like to fix it up and turn it into an old-fashioned inn or something.
Of a beautiful old tune, and the movie is about a once beautiful old hotel in the Catskill Mountains of New York. Jewish resort land. The hotel is cracking at the seams. Owner Maureen Stapleton doesn't know whether she should sell it or try to keep it in the family when along comes her granddaughter from Arizona who wants to work at the place. Of course, during any movie about such a hotel, there's always a loudmouth entertainer. Too bad they couldn't have hired Rodney Dangerfield for this film.
Barry, what would a summer be at the Lorraine without my Barry? 16 years, he's still looking for a girl. Barry, somewhere out there's a girl for you. But Barry, you're getting old, Barry. And speaking of girls, we have lovely ladies at the Lorraine this week, and we welcome you. Stay away from Barry. Listen to me.
Not too funny. On a more serious level, Stapleton is confronted with men who want to buy her hotel, and she confesses her quandary to her good friend, one of the hotel chefs.
There's always problems. The easy answer is to say sell. I was married here. I raised a family here. I met you here. It's been a good life.
You're telling me. You remember Switzer was making gin in one of the cabanas and the cops walked in? It's pretty good gin, too. I always thought I'd be here forever.
Oh, Sam. What am I going to do?
There should be a little bit more magic between them. The film doesn't really crackle. Of course, there's the issue of whether the granddaughter really is going to save the day. And this slow-moving movie, and that was a slow-moving scene, and it is a slow-moving movie, does pick up as we do await the final outcome of the hotel. I think the reasons we care at all about the hotel is three. One, Maureen Stapleton is always appealing, even with a soft script. Two, Trini Alvarado is a very fresh presence as the granddaughter. And three, the old hotel does look beautiful, especially at night. We want it saved. But the bulk of the movie is a lot of slapstick junk involving teenage waiters. I guess they were going after the teenage market from this movie, so they stick in a bunch of teenage slapstick. And that stuff bored me silly. So thumbs down on Sweet Lorraine.
All the way through this movie, I was thinking of a Scottish movie from about 2 years ago that is available on video called Experience Preferred But Not Necessary. This is about a young woman from London that goes up to Scotland and gets a job for the summer in a resort hotel. Same situation, except that movie was so much funnier and so much more human in terms of the upstairs, downstairs. Here, a lot of characters are introduced who never pay off. A lot of plot threads are introduced that are never resolved. And at the end of the movie, there's just a great big thud. There's no excitement.
What bored me is if they had taken the kids out and played it tougher between the granddaughter and the grandmother, they might have had a movie. Instead, they tried to mass market this movie, and they're going to burn for it.
Real disappointment. Our weekly video segment is next. Already on the show, we've looked at Marlene Dietrich, and now we're going to look at an actress who I think is even greater.
Well, don't you think he ought to have accident insurance?
Each pick a recently released movie we think you might enjoy renting on cassette or disc. And this week, the subject is Barbara Stanwyck, the great star of the 40s and 50s, and even recently as the matriarch on The Colbys on television. She was recently given the Lifetime Achievement Award by the American Film Institute, and that tribute will play on ABC television in the next couple of weeks. Meanwhile, two of her greatest performances have just been released on video, and my choice is Double Indemnity, the 1944 thriller directed by Billy Wilder and starring Stanwyck as a wife who plots with insurance agent Fred McMurray to sell her rich husband a big life insurance policy so they can murder him.
Could I get an accident policy for him without bothering him at all?
How's that again?
It would make it easier for you, too. You wouldn't even have to talk to him. I have a little allowance of my own. I could pay for it, and he needn't know anything about it.
The movie co-stars Edward G. Robinson as the insurance investigator who suspects something is wrong and doesn't know how right he is.
I'd like to move in on her right now, tonight. If it wasn't for Norton and his tri-pants ideas about company policy, I'd have the police after her so fast it would make her head spin. They put her through the ringer. And, Bubba, the things they would squeeze out.
Well, you haven't got a single thing to go on, Keys.
Oh, not too much. Just 26 years' experience, all the percentage there is, and this hunk of concrete in my stomach.
Double Indemnity is one of the most famous crime movies of the 40s, and it's inspired a lot of later movies, including Body Heat. What I especially liked about it this time around on video was the offbeat way the relationships are handled. Fred McMurray in this movie really loves Edward G. Robinson more than he loves Barbara Stanwyck, and the whole movie is a flashback as he tries to explain to Robinson why he did what he did and let down Robinson.
Well, what's amazing is I love to see this woman dominate this man. I love the battle royale between Edward G. Robinson and McMurray. McMurray knowing that he has really stepped into it. This is one of the great films of all time, period. And even though Double Indemnity is one of my all-time favorite movies, so is my next video pick, Barbara Stanwyck's The Lady Eve, brilliantly written and directed by Preston Sturges, a screwball comedy and love story from 1944.
The same year. 2 movies in 1 year.
She's a very underrated actress, I must say. Barbara Stanwyck in The Lady Eve plays the daughter of a card hustler who cheats rich men aboard ships, including, in this case, Henry Fonda. And here's an early scene with Stanwyck sort of feeling sorry for swindling Fonda, the one he's about to receive.
Well, I haven't been quite as lucky tonight as usual, have I?
You don't know how lucky you've been. The Colonel has been drawing wonderful cards. I believe it's my deal.
I'm sorry. I guess I haven't got my mind on the game.
I noticed that. How much are you behind?
Oh, about $3,000.
Well, you've given me a good hand at last.
I'm glad you like it.
Fonda is wonderful as a dense but sweet rich man, and Stanwyck is a charming powerhouse, and here she really does turn on the charm in the film's most famous scene where she seduces him, but he doesn't even know it.
And the night will be heavy with perfume. And I'll hear a step behind me. And somebody breathing heavily. And then... Oh, you better go to bed, Hopsy. I think I can sleep peacefully now.
Later on, Barbara Stanwyck impersonates an English countess in yet another effort to outsmart Henry Fonda, this time more for love than money.
Well, I mean to say, haven't we met?
But of course we have. Your father just introduced her.
I think if you see this film, Lady Eve, I think it will do 3 things for you. 1, it will rejuvenate your opinion of Barbara Stanwyck. 2, it will let you know that Henry Fonda is a terrific light comedian. And 3, if you don't already know it, you will now know a name of a great director, Preston Sturges, who made great, witty screwball comedies. I wish he were alive today. We need him more than ever.
I enjoyed this film so much. It's just one delight after another. And starting with the electrifying scene, which goes on and on and on, where she's running her fingers through his hair. That sets up the erotic charge that goes for the rest of the movie, and then they play the comedy against it. And the movie has one of those great last lines, just like in the front page. Fabulous last line. 2 great movies.
Okay.
And they're brand new on video. Now let's take another look at the movies we reviewed this week. We agreed on Extreme Prejudice, the high-voltage thriller with Nick Nolte and Powers Booth. 2 thumbs up on that one. And 2 more thumbs up for Marlene, the fascinating documentary by Maximilian Schell. And 2 more thumbs up for Personal Services, the hard-boiled drama about England's best-known madam. But we didn't like Sweet Lorraine, the shapeless, sentimental saga about real estate in the Catskills. 2 thumbs down on that one. Saw some good movies this week. I think maybe the sleeper is Personal Services because it might even sound and look like a different kind of movie than it really is.
And I think that I wonder if they can find it in their town is Marlene, because it is really good. And Extreme Prejudice, an old-fashioned Western. That's it for this week. Next week, something special. Roger and I will review previews of coming attractions. the so-called trailers that Hollywood uses to sell its movies. We'll compare trailers from classic films like Psycho to new trailers for the yet-to-be-released Beverly Hills Cop 2. That's next week. Until then, the balcony is closed.